welcome to another Tern Heads interview, bringing you actionable tips, industry insights and employment journey examples to help you start your dream career in the creative industries. I'm your host, Sam Fairbrother, and on today's episode I'm joined by Emma Lawrence, who is a graphics student from Loughborough University, and she's also currently on her year's placement with the Met Office. So welcome, Emma, lovely to have you. So you are in a really kind of exciting time in your career journey currently, and I know it wasn't quite straightforward for you, and you've already actually dealt with quite a bit of rejection from kind of applying to lots of different places. So yeah, I'd really like to kind of delve into your journey so far, and perhaps what tips you would give to students who are looking to apply for work experience or jobs right now. So could you maybe start off by explaining how you actually set about finding companies to apply for, and how you went about trying to find somewhere to go for your year's placement?
Yeah, of course I can. So thanks for having me on, first of all. I'm really excited, and it's great to sort of share knowledge and look back, because as a student I still look out for it everywhere. But placement years, I started looking at the start of my second year, actually, probably about the October time of my second year. As you've mentioned, I'm from Loughborough Uni on their graphics course there, and where I sort of found opportunities. My university, I'm really fortunate at Loughborough, we have a great careers network, so they did send out probably weekly emails with opportunities that they'd seen in an email of any kind of creative placements that they'd seen out there, which spanned a various range of job roles, just to cover lots of different opportunities for us to apply for. Sometimes they'd signpost ones that had Loughborough students before, or that they knew someone at the company, but a lot of the times it was just any opportunities that the careers network had found. Mm-hmm. But as well as that, I was doing my own research, got myself on LinkedIn, which I'd recommend any young creative to do, because there's loads of jobs that are advertised on there now. I set up various like alerts for placement year, for various keywords, internships, and even it's worth looking at full-time roles as well, because I've known quite a few friends that got placements through just applying for or getting in touch with companies who are looking for junior roles or for maternity cover or anything like that, and saying, look, I am only here for 12 months. So don't just I need to find a 12-month placement year, like broaden your search a bit more. But yeah, LinkedIn, Indeed as well, just general Googling of job sites. People will put them in all sorts of places. So it's just putting the time in to research and find those opportunities, really.
Yeah. And you had quite a good way of keeping track of everywhere that you were applying for, didn't you?
Yeah, it's a little bit nerdy, but I did create a good old spreadsheet.
Love a spreadsheet.
We do love a spreadsheet. But it was really useful, like all joking aside. I started it, and then before I knew it, there were about 25 different applications on there, and it's hard to keep track if you don't do that. So I had where each one was at. I had the link or screenshots of the job advert, because obviously sometimes you'll apply to somewhere and then before you know it, the job description's disappeared. So I used to always screenshot the job description and the job advert for where I was applying and put it in a folder, keep it all organized, so that say you then got interviewed, you don't have to be that person that's like, oh, could you send me the job description again, because it just doesn't look that professional if it's disappeared. So yeah, I did try to screenshot those things and keep those things in order in folders and keep it in a spreadsheet of where each application was at, because sometimes you get an email and you go, oh wait, was this application, or have they got my portfolio, did I have to do a cover letter? You can't remember, and you can't keep track of different opportunities. So whilst it is a bit nerdy, it is really useful.
Yeah, definitely. And so how many places in total did you apply for in the end?
I think it was around 25, maybe 23, or like slightly around there. It was definitely over 20. But yeah, and I know people that applied for way more than that as well. But a lot of my friends did do the sort of speculative, I think that's the right word, applying. So, sending out blanket emails to places that aren't necessarily looking for anyone. A lot of companies, particularly agencies, will have a kind of thing, send us your CV and portfolio if you're interested in an internship, but they won't actually advertise a year-long placement. So I do know a few people that did it that way, but I didn't really contact any companies like that. And it's not to say you shouldn't, because I think you should, but I sort of tended to go for ones that were actually being advertised. But it's good to be aware of doing that as well. But my main advice from speaking to my friends that did that is don't just send the same email out to 20 or 30 agencies, because they'll spot it a mile off. Make it personal to each place you're applying for, even if it is a speculative email. Make sure you've got why you want to work for them. And I'm sure, Sam, you experienced that from working in agencies and maybe seeing some of these emails. You might have a bit more to say on that, really, of just making sure it's personal to the place you're applying for.
Yeah, definitely. And it's really easy to do that as well, isn't it, now that everybody's got websites? And even if you just mention a project they've done or something, you don't have to go too over the top, but as you say, it just makes them feel like you want to work for them rather than just give me a job. But yeah, so yeah, I mean, what you said, it's about 20-25 places that you sort of wrote off to. What were the kind of responses that you got from them?
Wide range, to be honest. Some you just don't hear from, and you then I had a little, I can't remember how long I'd leave it, or I'd make sure I checked back on the job advert whether it said you'll hear by this point, or some are quite open and will say we don't, if you're not successful, we don't contact you, which I'd prefer if they're open and honest on the advert. At least you then know and you're not waiting. And some do say that. Some will say you'll be contacted by X date, so then you know when to sort of check back if you haven't heard anything, just so that you know either way, because there's nothing worse than having an application, having no idea whether you're in the next stage or not, because it is hard to balance, as I said earlier. But yeah, it was a wide range. Some I got through to the next stage and then had like a telephone interview or a video interview. Some you then got contacted, can you send us some more work? And then you get to another stage. Some I had assessment centres for, which is quite intense, a full-on day at the company, where you have various interviews, group tasks, presentations, which I can delve into if you think it'll be helpful, Sam. But it's a wide range. Some rejected straight away, quite a few rejected straight away. Some you have a telephone interview, then you're rejected. Some you have the telephone interview, then a video interview, then you're rejected. Like it's so kind of wide ranging out of those 25 of what I got.
And generally, when you were having like, I guess like phone calls were probably more one-to-one and stuff, but when you were having like the video calls and stuff, how many people were you sort of, having to chat to on those?
Quite often it was either one-on-one or one-on-two, because a lot of some of mine, I was sort of at the crossover between where COVID was happening. So the ones before COVID, some of them were like in person. That's when I talk about these assessment centres and stuff. But then some of them towards the end were all virtual, like the Met Office, the placement that I ended up getting, which I'm really grateful for. All of that was done virtually, because I couldn't go into the building for an interview in person because we were all on lockdown by then. So yeah, it ranged, but quite often one-on-one, to be honest. Yeah, it was quite often, if it was a telephone interview, it was definitely one-on-one, but then you might have to speak to someone else as well within that process. But Met Office, it was 2-on-1. So
yeah. So tell us a bit more about the assessment centres, because that just sounds horrific. But I mean, how many people were on these days with you?
Yeah, so I think I did about 3 assessment centres throughout my time of applying for placements, and again they ranged, they were different, and sometimes you'd go to, I think one of them I went and there were people applying for different roles, so not everyone that was there was for my placement. So when I went to, I was going for sort of like a media based kind of graphicsy, but it was a bit more video kind of role, because I was quite open to applying to various different opportunities. And I was in the same assessment day with people who were going for finance roles at the same company, and it wasn't just I'm dumped with a load of creative students. It was people from all sorts of backgrounds, which made it quite interesting, to be honest, the day, as stressful as it was. But some of them were half a day, some of them were literally a full day, which involved various different things, from group tasks where you're in a room and you're being assessed on your team working skills at the end of the day and how you work with different people. So they'll set you a kind of task in a situation, and it's how you deal with them. I remember one, it was like we had to look at a load of emails and we had to rank them in importance of what we'd apply for, what we'd reply to first. Just simple tasks like that, but trying to work together as a team, like which one do you need to reply to first? You just come back from holiday, and then halfway through with your deadline, they then go, oh, you've had a new email come in. And it's just things like that. Some it was more about presentations. Often at the assessment centres you'd have a presentation part of it, which was often you got to prepare before you went. So you'd get sent a task, you've got to present for 10 minutes on this. One of them, you just got to present about anything you wanted for 10 minutes. It's just to go along and show that you can talk in front of a room of people. And that one, actually, all the other applicants were there. So you did it in front of a room of about maybe 30 people. And yeah, you just had to present. But anything you have to present, make sure you keep to your time, because I've been at assessment centres where someone's, gone, oh, the timer literally goes, they put you on a timer and they've gone over time, and you can tell that was a big no. Yeah, so make sure you stick to your time.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
But even the ones I did virtually interviews, I often had to present something. So something that you can prepare for beforehand, make sure it's good, because it's like you get it in advance, and that's something you can go in confidently knowing, right, I've got that 10 minutes, I can ace the presentation part of the assessment centre. Obviously an interview, you don't know what questions are going to get thrown at you, but that would be my main advice for any kind of long assessment centre. Just make sure you're prepared for the bits you really can be prepared for.
Yeah. And when is it kind of you're presenting more like your work, your projects, you're walking them through your portfolio, or is it just really kind of random stuff that they get you to present?
It really depends what the opportunity was. I think one of them, it was more just presenting your portfolio and presenting your work, but they get you to do weird things and see how you react to weird situations with these presentations and these assessment centres. And the main thing I'd say is just not to stress out first, no matter what they ask you to do, and just relax and be yourself. Don't try to be what you think they want you to be. Like, don't overthink it. Because one of the presentation tasks I had before, there was a cup of loads of different things on paper, and we just had to all go up. And this was in a room of about 50 people, because I had a lot of staff members that came down for this bit just to put pressure on us. And we just had to go up, pick a bit of paper out of this cup and talk about whatever was on that bit of paper for a minute, I think it was. People had, what's your favourite book? Anything like that. People had, what was your journey to this assessment centre like? And the range of stuff, what's your favourite film? It was such random things, but it's just to check that you don't go up there, see what's on the paper and crumble, which is quite easy to do in a pressured situation. But it's just about relaxing and trying to be confident in yourself and just be able to talk to a room of people. And you can practice these things. I practiced my presentation if I had to deliver one in front of my family before I went, and even just doing that in itself, making them sit on the sofa, stand in front of them and delivering it, it helps you feel that little bit of pressure, even though it's only your family. So if you do have friends or someone who's willing to do that for you, I'd recommend doing that for sure.
Yeah, I've heard filming yourself as well and then watching it back is quite a good tactic for that as well, if you don't have anyone that you can present to, but yeah, so you got your placement in the end. Congratulations. At the Met Office. So yeah, let us know like what you've been doing while you've been there.
So I've done such a wide range of things, which has actually been perfect for me, because I'm someone who didn't really know what kind of area of the creative industry I wanted to go into, and still don't really know. I've sat on my course amongst people who want to be a children's book illustrator or want to go into animation at a big creative agency in London. They've got their goal, whereas I've always been a bit of I've got quite a wide-ranging skill set where I'm not like amazing at one thing. I'm kind of like, I don't want to say I'm okay at loads of things, because that probably downplays me a bit. It's just saying I'm not good at anything, but I am kind of flexible and like lots of different areas of design. So I've struggled to kind of go, that's what I want to do. So the Met Office placement has been perfect for me. And even though my journey to get there was really difficult, I'm so glad I didn't give up along the way, because I've learned so much throughout my time there. I've learned how fun it is working in an in-house design team, which it probably has a stereotype sometimes of being a lot less creative and a lot less fun than agency life. And I've actually found the opposite. I've really thrived in that environment, I think. And the kind of work I do, it really ranges. I've learned a lot about social media, which I found really interesting. I've helped the Met Office with various bits on social. And for anyone who doesn't know who the Met Office is, I probably should give a brief intro of that. That might help as well. Yeah,
go for it.
So I just realised I'm chatting away and people might not even know who the Met Office are as a company. So they're all things weather and climate, basically. A lot of people think we're the police, but we're not. So I've got to do some funky graphics about quite complicated climate science and weather information. And I get quite nerdy in that respect, a bit like with my spreadsheets, because I did maths and geography A level, come from an academic and a creative background. And I love the Met Office because I get to design stuff about something that's really interesting. And obviously my geography A level doesn't really help me in my job, but it shows I have that kind of academic side. So getting to design stuff about some really interesting topics is quite nice, from infographics that break down like weather and climate data. It's really interesting.
It's interesting that you say as well that you don't know exactly what area you wanted to go into. And I think, graphics in itself is so broad anyway. And when you do a graphics course, you do kind of delve into lots and lots of different areas. So I think it's quite refreshing to hear that you don't have to have like a solid plan when you go into this kind of situation. And yeah, you do kind of just feel your way as you go, I think, in a lot of respects. So yeah. So, I mean, what's it been like as well, like doing this placement while you've been in lockdown?
I've only met my team once throughout my whole placement year. So I started in July 2020, and I'm coming towards the end now of my placement year. I've met them once for a 2-hour meeting back in sort of September time, when lockdown restrictions weren't as strict. I managed to get in the office for a meeting for 2 hours, and other than that, that's all I've met of my team. Other than that, I've been in my bedroom at my desk, virtual. So it has been really challenging, but nowhere near as scary and as challenging as I thought it would be. It's actually, opened my eyes to, if I was at university, for example, or graduated and there's a virtual internship, it wouldn't put me off at all. Because you can still get that experience if you're in a supportive team. And I'm really fortunate that I've got a really supportive manager who will check on me like you would if you're in the office. You can still Skype message or drop someone a message to check they're doing okay. And I'm really fortunate that we have regular catch-ups as a team, even though we're virtual. So we have a morning meeting every single day where we all have to go around what jobs we're doing that day, which has been a great chance for me to ask any questions, or it's a great chance for the design manager to see who's busier and who's not, so he knows who to delegate the next brief that comes into. And it's a chance for me to ask any questions I have. If I'm stuck on anything, I can say, can I have some help? And we also every other day have a catch up for half an hour that's just to talk about anything, not work. We'll talk about Netflix and what we're watching on TV, and just checking in that we're okay. I'm really fortunate the Met Office really do highly value well-being, and they're really great as an organization for all of that kind of thing. So yeah, it's been a great experience.
And they've given you quite a lot of scope as well, haven't they, to kind of delve into your own kind of projects. I mean, tell us what you did with the with some of the bits and pieces that they kind of just gave you to kind of run with.
Yeah, so I can talk through some of the specific projects. I know I've been quite broad with everything, but one of the kind of first bigger projects I got was the Met Office were producing a book called Very British Weather, which is being published by Penguin, and alongside them, and there's various contributors to it. And I went along to an initial meeting, I think, with various people from across the office to brainstorm ideas of how we could promote the book. And off the back of that, I then kind of got assigned the job and did graphics across social, really, from Instagram stories of like true or false facts from the book. We were very conscious we didn't want any posts to be buy our new book, even though you kind of have to be like that, because the Met Office is an organisation, our purpose is to try keep people safe and able to thrive, and particularly be able to do that during times of severe weather. So we're trying to educate people, make people aware so that they can act during times of severe weather in particular. So for example, at the minute, it's a lot about UV and making sure people are aware of that. And the book, it kind of, you think, oh gosh, if we then just buy our book, does it really sit under our purpose? So I did a lot of work around how we could make sure any posts weren't at that angle. So we came at it from an educational angle. So a lot of the posts were like, did you know facts from our book? So every time we post about our book, we're trying to teach people something about, pick out a quirky fact from the book. So it's still sort of educational as well as promotional at the end of the day. So I actually developed a lot of my animation skills throughout that project, which was really good. It was something I wanted to do on placement because I wanted that sort of extra skill under my belt that I didn't really have before. So I edited.
Wasn't that specified in the actual job ad? And
yeah,
you were very upfront about the fact that you weren't so confident in that area, but you still got the role.
Yeah, and that brings on to a key point, just be honest. Like if you see something, like I almost was like, I think it said has a keen interest in animation or something, and I was like, oh, what am I going to say? Like, because I had friends that would blag it and say whatever, yeah, I can do Premiere Pro, I can do that, and I'm just not like that as a person. I can't even tell the littlest white lies. Sometimes it doesn't help me out in life that I'm that honest, but it did in this situation, because when I got asked to interview about animation, I just said, look, it's something I really want to develop, and I've done a 10-second animation as part of a uni module, but other than that, I haven't really touched on After Effects much, but I'd love to learn more, and it's something that I'd love to develop throughout my time. And I've been fortunate to have some training, and some of the staff have gone over bits through me, which has been more difficult to do virtually, like it has, compared to just being able to sit next to someone's laptop and learn something. It has been a lot more challenging. That's probably one of the things I've missed out on potentially a little bit virtually. I've still had the odd thing, but it's just potentially not as much as if I'd have been in person. But yeah, the book, I got to do some animated stories, chopping together some presented content. So our presenters one of the presenters did how many facts he could read from the book in a minute, and I edited that video together, even to just simple animations of text coming on and off and a number counting up, like nothing fancy, but I hadn't done that before. So it was a great opportunity for me to develop my skills. Just lastly on the book, it was a great opportunity for me to pick up some project management skills, because for example, I remember my manager was off on annual leave and he asked me if I could really oversee it whilst he was gone, and I was the contact for Penguin, so I had to call them and check that they were happy with some of the stuff we were putting out, and liaise with like external people as well as internal, which was really, really good for my development. And lots of people involved in this project, so it was a lot of making sure I was juggling lots of different plates and different people, and making sure I had sign off on things before I sent graphics to people to post for me. Yeah, it was a great part of my development, not just my design skills, but all the other skills that you need in any job.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's great that they had that faith and that confidence in you to let you, email clients and kind of liaise in that way. That's fantastic.
Quite early on as well. Like, I don't know why, but
well, they obviously saw that you were completely capable. So yeah, well done.
Thank you.
And what was the other? Are there any other projects that you did like while you were there as well that you really kind of really enjoyed?
Probably the other one I really, really enjoyed. I'll try to keep a bit more brief because I probably waffled on about the book a bit too much. But the next one I'd chat through is Weather Studio Live. So the Met Office, again, this is a bit more of a social one, which shows that they're the projects that I've loved the most. I've done a lot of internal campaigns and various bits, but the ones that always stand out in my mind are the ones that have gone across social media, which probably shows that that's where more of my interests are going to lie and where I want to go into, which is a good learning curve for me. But the Met Office before COVID used to do weekly weather studio live. So it would involve the presenters going live from the studio at the HQ down in Exeter, letting people know what the weather was doing for the short term. Then they do a longer range forecast. They might get a bit geeky with some of the more high-tech weather diagrams and graphs and stuff. They'd often do a little climate section, and sometimes they'd have other members of Met Office staff or external people join them in the studio to talk about specific bits that were relevant to that week. And obviously due to COVID, this had to stop because everyone was working from home, and it got brought about a discussion that we we're going to bring it back monthly. And I started doing a bit of research just off my own bat. No one told me to do anything. I was just on a quiet day. I thought I'll just see what this weather studio live was like, because I didn't know, watched a few of them. And I was looking at the visuals and I was like, right, if we're going to start again, we've not done it for a while, it would be a great opportunity to maybe give it a bit of a revamp and do something a bit different with the graphics. And I suggested it to my manager and a few people, and everyone was like, yeah, like, go for it. There's, I'm very lucky to be supported by a team that if you've got an idea, you quite, even as an intern, I hate that phrase, even as an intern, because it makes it sound like you're not valued, but I'm going to use it to say the complete opposite, that no matter what idea I have, I'm valued like any other staff member. And it's like, yeah, go take that idea, go away and do something with it if you want. So I then set up a meeting as a brainstorm with all the designers, ran that meeting, and it just went from there. And I basically kind of, again, sort of project managed it, created a revamp of the look for the whole Weather Studio Live, from the YouTube thumbnails to graphics to promote it, which they didn't do much of before or previously, I don't think, to animated wipes that went between the sections. I worked with the presenters a lot to sort of define how it could be separated into sections a bit more, and how we could use graphics to separate these sections, which is where we created these animated wipes that went on the live show to separate the sections. So I got to sort of kind of art direct in a way, art animator, because I didn't have the skills to do that, which was another great skill for me, because I loved it. I was like, I've got this vision of this. Can you do it? I don't know, is that possible? And then he'd go away and like create what I thought and even better, and send me loads of animated wipes, and I'd be like, oh, could you do this but change it like this? And then I realized what was possible, and I actually really thrived in that environment and really enjoyed it, because sometimes, you've got to accept that you've really not got the skills to do something, but someone else in your team has. And he was great to work with. And again, so out of that project, my main takeaway from that is just embrace every opportunity you can and look for them yourself. No one said, Emma, we want you to look at the identity for the Weather Studio Live. I went, can I look at the identity? And then I got supported along the whole way. Nothing came to me from that. It wasn't, can you do this? So no matter what opportunity you're in, particularly as a young creative, like, don't feel like you can't change things and say. The worst thing that can happen is that they're going to say no, and that's not even that bad of a thing to have happened, because it still shows you're creative and looking for opportunities to help them develop. So yeah, embrace every opportunity that you can.
Yeah, absolutely. It shows your initiative, doesn't it? And it shows that you're a thinker as well as a doer, and that's what drives businesses forward. That's what makes creative companies successful. So yeah, absolutely, 100%. So I guess to kind of wrap it up, what would be your top tips for students and grads and emerging creatives who are currently looking for placements or jobs in the industry?
The first one is just really believe in yourself, because I really struggled with that, and I think my confidence has grown a lot since I've been on placement. But it goes without saying that you need to realize the value that you do have as a student, and not constantly have that like imposter syndrome of like, I am a student, they've been in industry ages. Like, value your ideas, because you're bringing a completely fresh and new mindset. Like, particularly with social media stuff, like, I've inputted a lot of TikTok strategy and things like that, and I'm in a chat where the presenters put their TikToks, and I'll quickly give feedback and, oh, what about this? And it's just a different kind of set of eyes, a younger, fresher eyes, which I'm sure they won't mind me saying, but it is. So yeah, just have the confidence to say your ideas. And as I said earlier, the worst thing that can happen is someone's going to go, oh no, like, and if you're working at a place where they're really nasty to you, if you're just trying to put fresh ideas, then it's probably not a nice place to work and not the right place for you. So yeah, just believe in yourself, be the first one. The next one, specifically to placements or any job opportunity that you're applying for, don't get in the rut of just applying to everything, which I think I kind of got into at one point of applying to placements. I think I got in a bit of I need a placement. I don't care what it is. I need a placement. And there's a few opportunities I got very close to getting, like last 3 close to getting. And I look back and I think, really, I really wanted it with everything. That was the one, or that, at that time, that was the placement for me in my head. And I didn't get it. But now I look back and I reflect and I'm like, that really wouldn't have been the right kind of placement for me. And at the time, because I was just applying for everything, it probably wasn't the right thing to do. I could have put more time into some of the applications that really were going to be right for me. So make sure you want to work for them as much as they want to work for you. It's not just an interview where they're interviewing you. You should be interviewing them as well, making sure it's the right place for you. Making sure you're going to get out of it what you want to get out of it. Have a bit of faith in yourself and make sure you're applying to places that you want to work at the end of the day, because it is a hard world, and I dread to think people graduating at the moment how hard it's going to be applying, and I imagine a lot of people right now will just be applying to anything and everything they see, which you kind of do have to do financially at some point. I do understand that any job's still a job, but make sure that you're still applying to places that are right for you. Any other top tips?
I guess you stuck it out as well. You stuck it out over some of your classmates and stuff as well, which I think is really key, because it doesn't just
don't give up.
it doesn't just happen overnight, does it? And you will apply to 100 places and you'll probably get, like, I don't know, 4 responses or whatever, but you just got to keep going, and lots of other people will drop out and won't keep trying. And if you do, then more scope for you, more chances for you.
Definitely. Throughout my placement journey, I got very close to giving up towards the end, because I'd been applying since October, and I think I got the Met Office opportunity about mid-April time. So it was a lot, and it was balancing these applications and these interviews amongst my second year work, which was ramping up, and it was really difficult to do, to be honest, balancing it all. It was really hard at times.
And a lot of it is flowing around industry timelines as well. I think a lot of people think that they didn't get a response, or they didn't get it because they weren't good enough, but it might just literally be a matter of timing. Like, the company might just be super busy in those months over Christmas that they just can't even contemplate taking on a placement at that moment in time. That's not to say they haven't put your portfolio and your application to one side for a later date. So that's where things like your spreadsheet and stuff comes back into play and is really good, because you might not hear from them for a few months.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, just don't give up. Like, that is the main one. The right opportunity for you will come eventually, even when you're there and you don't feel like you're ever going to get one, because I've been there. But honestly, when I say I was close to giving up, I was like, right, this is it. And if I'm honest, I think the Met Office, if I hadn't got that one, that probably would have been it. But when I look back, I'm like, out of all of them I applied to, genuinely, like, from the bottom of my heart, I think the Met Office was the right one for me out of all of them, which I wouldn't have thought probably at the time of getting it. I'd have probably still thought, I think I'd have preferred that one. But now I'm here, it really was the right one for me. And like I said earlier, I'm so grateful that I didn't accept some of the opportunities. If I'd have got them, the ones that I got so close to, I'm so glad that I didn't get them, because I'd have accepted at the time and I wouldn't have had the opportunity to get the placement year I've had, because I stuck it out and kept going and was determined to keep applying.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic. Well, best of luck for the last kind of stint of your placement there, and I'm so glad that you've enjoyed it so much, and you've really got so much out of it. And yeah, hopefully this interview has been helpful. If you enjoyed it, please do subscribe to Tern Heads. Have a look at our website as well, ternheads.com. We have a community there, and peers, professionals, educators, all kind of chatting around lots and lots of different subjects. So yeah, don't kind of, suffer in silence. Do ask any questions you don't know the answers to. We're here to help however we can. Yeah, fantastic. Well, yeah, thank you so much, Emma. Really appreciate it. And yeah, best of luck with your future. It's going to definitely be a bright and successful one for sure.
Thanks for having me.